Day 6 of on-ice sessions for the VGK Training Camp 2020-21 edition, presented by Martin Harris Construction. This is the Training Camp Bulletin, brought to you by NextGen from City National Arena. The players have gathered on the ice. The whistle has just gone, so perfect timing. As we bring you into Studio 31, Daren Millard along with Mike McKenna for today's edition of the stream on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Looking forward to interaction throughout the next hour or so as the team will go through a practice session. There'll be a scrape, a cut, whatever terminology you want to use when it comes to resurfacing the ice, and then come back out for maybe a scrimmage or some special teams work. But it is day 6. We're on the home stretch towards the opening night for the National Hockey League on Wednesday, and the Golden Knights open their schedule Thursday night against the Anaheim Ducks. So we're in that period where management and coaching staff has a firm grasp on what they have.
You're getting really close to the game, so you get closer to practice sessions leading up to it, and you know that you're getting down to your final details. You're doing more special teams work, working on scrimmages, trying to really hone in on exactly where you want players up and down the lineup, building that chemistry on the players that have come into the organization, the players that are attempting to move up in the organization. This is really the exciting time of training camp when you start to see who's really clamping down on those roster spots.
Waiver wire really busy over the last day and a half, and we expect that the Golden Knights will have to make some moves going towards the opening night roster and being cap compliant. So there are some decisions that have to be made as we work our way towards Wednesday and the start of this abbreviated 56-game schedule. A couple of just league-wide notes to tell you about. Better news from the Columbus Blue Jackets. Their precautionary measures that they took because of COVID exposure looks to have passed as they're back on the ice. The Pittsburgh Penguins, the same situation as they return to their workouts today. But the Vancouver Canucks did take a step back. There's been some exposure there. So because of precautionary measures that go into the protocols, the Vancouver Canucks will not hold their workouts in conjunction with the Dallas Stars, who remain off right now. But it's business as usual, as you see, for the Golden Knights, who are on the ice starting their workout today.
Well, and thankfully the Golden Knights haven't faced that so far. That's the reality that we're in COVID, in the middle of a pandemic. You never know when that's going to hit. And the players have all touched on it. The coaching staff's touched on it in their availabilities, that it is so important to do the right thing at all times. Not most of the time, at all times, to try to make sure that you can field a team on the ice. You don't want to end up like in Dallas's role where, suddenly you're held in quarantine for 2 weeks and you can't get your practice time in at this critical juncture.
When you look at what is ahead and trying to get that work in now, because once Thursday hits for the Golden Knights, it's every second day, and you have to just manage that work-to-rest ratio. Oscar Dansk in the far end at City National Arena on the Summerlin Hospital rink, and that is Marc-Andre Fleury in the new pads, not the gold pads, but he modeled those yesterday during the morning skate. So that's a slightly different look for Marc-Andre Fleury as they go up and down the ice. So now, as a player who's been through the training camp like this on numerous occasions, what's life like for players that are on the bubble right now going into the time when roster moves are going to have to be made?
You're hoping that it's a time of excitement, but for a lot of guys, it's a time of nervousness. And that's what makes it difficult for them, is that you're trying to find that mental balance of having confidence in your game, doing the right things, having the proper habits. But in the back of the head, you're always thinking, oh man, am I doing good enough right now? Is there more I can do? So you do have to walk that fine line between trying too hard, forcing yourself to make too many plays in areas you shouldn't, and just trusting your game. Players at this level are all here for a reason. They're excellent hockey players. They are in the top percentage of the entire world, but it's so easy to start pressing and doing too much. So you're trying to find that balance and consistency, and just keep yourself in the right mental space, that you're not overdoing things. You're confident, you're calm, but you also know the reality of the situation.
On this Sunday morning, we want to hear from you. We've got some topics that we're going to throw to you throughout the hour, including one revolving around the greatest player to ever play the game, Wayne Gretzky, and the significance of this day as it relates to number 99. But right out of the gate, Gila Monster Hockey on Twitch says it's prediction time. Wants to know who will score the first goal for the VGK this season.
See, I'm never good at predictions, ever. But I'm going to indulge. We got to indulge Gila Monster here. Right. I know. Well, what are the chances of being right? There's only 20 players on the ice at the time. Well, we don't expect it to be Robin Lehner or Marc-Andre Fleury. So there's two names off the board right away. I'm going to go Max Pacioretty. Led the team in goals last year. He's looked great in camp so far. His release is on spot. It's the easy answer, Daren, so I'm taking it.
I will go with Alex Pietrangelo, just because I talked to Gordon yesterday at length about all the players that did score in their debuts last year for the Vegas Golden Knights, and we went through the list, and 6 players came up or were acquired and found the net in their opening game. So it just makes sense that Pietrangelo would score on Thursday night, and I'll just go a step further and say that he finds the net in his debut with the Golden Knights.
Well, if the Golden Knights earn a power play right away, there could be a good chance at that. Pietrangelo has been playing right at the top. You'd expect him to have a lot of opportunities there, but man, he just moves the puck so well. You know, Daren going up the ice, forehand, back, and it doesn't matter. His feet are always in motion. Alex Pietrangelo is a catalyst on the rush and on the power play.
We are going to spend a lot of time in Thursday night's 1-hour pregame show on AT&T Sportsnet discussing Pietrangelo, where he will fit in, what the strengths of his game are. We know he's a top 5 defenseman in the National Hockey League, but we'll get into more detail about really where he controls the game and can influence a game. How do you quantify when a player's having a good camp?
To me, it's making simple plays. It's not having turnovers. It's being always involved in the rush. Players that make it look easy, usually there's a reason for it. You know, I look at the line of Marchessault, Smith, Karlsson, the chemistry that they have. Sometimes it's easy to just rely on that and get through camp. Haven't seen that. There's been a hunger throughout that line that they keep making the right plays. They're driving the net. They just look in sync with one another. That's the easiest way for me to describe it, is that it doesn't look like there's anything missing from the game. They're in the right place at the right time. They're paying attention to details. And a lot of that isn't just what you know in your head. It's pay attention to system work. It's putting it all together, making the game look effortless.
A shout out to Mr. KB on Twitch, who's been watching from London. He's been with us. They've been with us throughout the entire camp. And Matthew on Twitch in Grand Bay, New Brunswick. Hope that you are safe and healthy as you go through this morning with us, afternoon for you in Atlantic Canada. It's normally there's a dog day stage in training camp for veteran players. Do we still have that in this abbreviated camp going into the 56-game schedule?
It's easy to get to the point midway through camp where you just want to start playing games. And usually, like you say, that dog day scenario happens midway through camp where you're starting to become tired of having all the young guys around that are taking space out of practice time so you don't get your reps in. This is such a short, condensed schedule. I don't think we're feeling that at all. It's been all systems go right away. It's been very similar to the return to play this summer, where it felt like everything had a purpose. There's not as many players in camp. So the players are getting those reps. They're engaged. The veteran players are having every opportunity to make sure that they're getting their fine details honed in. And even without the exhibition games, there's that carrot at the end of the line that there's a regular season game coming in 4 days.
Banana Freckles on Twitter says Pacioretty from Stone for the first goal. Let's hear from more of you on who is going to score the first goal for the VGK this season. Kevin on Twitch says Stone on the power play will score the first goal. Power play has been more of a focus as camp's gone on, sort of a reversal of what we saw in the summer, where there was more system work at the start of camp and scrimmages near the end. This has featured a lot more of the 5-on-5 scrimmages, including 2 at T-Mobile, and we're starting to see a mix-in of the power play work as camp hit the midway mark.
It's interesting to see the difference between the return to play and what we're seeing now. The return to play was such a unique scenario. I think the intensity that it had, knowing that the games were coming that mattered, that were playoffs, that you had to get your power play and your penalty kill in order right away. This had a little bit more gradual feel to it in this training camp, more like a traditional one, even though it was condensed, where you do build up as camp goes through. You get your legs underneath you. You start to feel out your line mates and get back in that rhythm. You're just finding your happy place on the ice. And as that goes along, that's when you start to build in power play, penalty kill, special teams, doing more in-zone system work. So there's definitely been a very much a ramp-up effect to this, whereas the return to play was just go. Green flag, we're going, time to win. Of course, the Vegas Golden Knights want to win right out of the gate, but this is a very methodical approach to the start of the season.
Has it surprised you at all that the lines have maintained consistency throughout camp, that there hasn't been a lot of shuffling back and forth outside of when Alex Tuck hasn't been on the ice? Don't see him today as well. But they've maintained their status quo throughout.
It has surprised me. Reason being is that Pete DeBoer is shown that he's never married to lines. He's very willing to mix them up. I did expect during training camp that you would see more of that. Maybe we will going forward. There's still a few days left, but there has been very much a consistency to the lines. Marchessault, Carlson, Smith, that's a rock line that's been there for the Golden Knights in previous years. The CNR line, the meat grinders, as they've taken on the title of with Carrier, Nosek, Reeves. Those two lines have maintained together. Stevenson going between Pacioretty and Stone. I think if any of those lines you thought maybe Stone and Pacioretty might get a different look with some centermen, maybe Nick Waugh slides in, maybe Cody Glass, that could still happen. In my eyes, you're looking for some consistency to a team over the course of being an organization. You know, you keep that Smith, Carlson, Marchessault line together. You have a little bit of consistency into what you've done in the past that you can rely on. Same thing with deep pairs too. You know, you've got Martinez, Theodore. They've remained together. Whitecloud, Holden, that were fixtures on the back end. That consistency is really good at the start of the season. But I have been surprised, Daren, that they haven't mixed it up a little bit more. We might see that going forward.
Whitecloud spent a lot of time with Haig during this training camp, and Dylan Coughlin's been with Holden. But during the scrimmages, T-Mobile the other night, it was back to the normal look. Karen and Rachel on Facebook saying Wild Bill Carlson will score the first goal. Celebrated a birthday the other day, 28. Says he's matured, really, and he sounded like a mature player as he discussed where he is with his game and wanting to improve his goal total from a year ago and win a championship, and said it's time.
Well, he's feeling the pressure of now it's not just establishing yourself in the league any longer. It's time to win championships. And you feel that right off the bat. You want to win a Stanley Cup right away. But when you get to the confidence level of a William Karlsson, who's now 6, 7, 8 years into an NHL career and firmly established in his role, you know, he's an old man at 28. He's engaged. He's moving, you know, towards, you know, having a life with kids and dogs and everything else. But I think it really just comes with the maturity of an older player that you start to realize big picture things when you're rooted somewhere. The pressure is on, but you start to thrive in that pressure. You want the pressure. You know, you can tell he wants it. He expects more out of himself. He's not making excuses in any way. He knows that he didn't score the number of goals that he wanted to last year. The thing about Will Karlsson to me, though, even if he doesn't have the same goal total, he's such a complete 200-foot player for the team. He's the first over the boards to take that face-off in the defensive zone. He has value, but he wants more. He wants to bring that goal scoring back to what it was previously.
Pete DeBoer said the play in the bubble was exceptional, regardless of how many goals that he was putting up. But it's a bonus. If you can get 25 goals out of each of those players over an 82-game schedule on that line, 25 to 30 goals, that's a huge amount of production, and it really forces the opposition to give you a different look matchup-wise with Pacioretty, Stone, and Stevenson.
Correct. You know, and when you look to the third line last year, look at the return to play in the bubble. The third line, which featured at the time Alex Tuck, you know, playing on the wing there, was really going full blast, and they were creating that third layer of scoring. You want to have three lines that you know can score, not just the top two, not just one super line. Riley Smith scored 27 goals last year. Is there anybody more underrated in the NHL than Riley Smith? The level that he plays with, Jonathan Marchessault always says this about Smith, that he makes the right play at the right time. He makes life easy, and so does Karlsson playing alongside those two. So that diverse attack is what you have to have, and it also aids that all three of those players are an important piece of the power play as well. So if they're clicking 5-on-5, that's going to transfer over in what they do on the power play.
Karen and Rachel, thank you for your predictions. Judy and Mike on Facebook both say Riley Smith from Karlsson, so they're right with you. Norma on Facebook is taking Riley Smith as well, so maybe he's not underrated.
Not amongst VGK fans. They know how good he is.
Mr. KB going back with Tuck and some dude 88. Great spelling there. Says and some dude 88 is the hashtag or the title. Says Reeves from Whitecloud. How about that prediction?
Perfect. Well, you can be creative. I tell you what, if there's odds placed on this, some dude 88's going to crush it with that prediction. If it's Reeves from Whitecloud, that's $1 million bet right there. No doubt about it.
For more first goal predictions, check out yesterday's training camp diary presented by Station Casinos on VegasGoldenKnights.com. It has all your behind-the-scenes content and some great interaction with you on VGK training camp. VGK Worldwide, TGA on YouTube in Reno asks, what should fans most look forward to this season? I'll just narrow it down specifically because it's a little bit open-ended. But from the Golden Knights, what should we look forward to, pace, approach in that opening week?
I'm going to relate back to what Ryan Reeves said about how the play under Pete DeBoer has been cleaned up defensively in the D zone and the way that they exit the zone and entry on the rush. Golden Knights historically have been a good team when it comes to generating chances on the rush, but the defensive zones needed to be cleaned up at times. He felt like the team was really much better once Pete DeBoer got his claws dug in on the club, especially in the return to play. So you're expecting to see very, very tight defensive hockey, I would think, supplemented by the offense that's coming along with it. When you have additions like Alex Pietrangelo, you do expect a bump in offense. When you've had several months off to take a look at what was right and wrong, when you come to system work, you find those details to generate more offense. But I think really the biggest difference you're going to see with the Golden Knights this year is that extra emphasis on defensive play.
Seeing the workout live at City National Arena on the Summerlin Hospital rink here. From Studio 31, this is the Training Camp Bulletin presented by NextGen as we bring you the VGK 2020-2021 Training Camp, sponsored by Martin Harris Construction. We're expecting a scrape in just a little bit after they get their legs underneath them, and then maybe a scrimmage or some special teams work in the back half. We will be with you throughout today's on-ice session as the Golden Knights continue to inch their way towards Thursday's opening night game at the Fortress against the Anaheim Ducks. This is the anniversary of Wayne Gretzky becoming the all-time leading scorer in the National Hockey League, January 10th. And wanted to ask you and the viewers on all of our social media channels your favorite Wayne Gretzky moment. Send it to us, and we'll spend some time on that in a little bit on this edition of the Training Camp Bulletin brought to you by NextGen. But questions continue to pour in from Travis on YouTube asking, how many games do you think the VGK will win against St. Louis and Colorado, knowing that there's the 16 matchups combined?
16. All of them. Right? You agree?
Would be absolutely huge. And in this season of high expectations, right around what is expected.
Right. I don't want to take that question lightly. Obviously, the St. Louis Blues and the Colorado Avalanche are who you're looking to be strong players in the division. No question about that. I would caution everyone to think about this, that you never know what's going to happen out of the gate. We don't know that St. Louis is going to be a great team. We don't know that Colorado will be. Boy, it sure looks like it on paper. Stacked teams, not really any weaknesses, a recent cup winner in St. Louis. But how do they perform out of the gate? Can they catch momentum right away? And it's true for the Golden Knights. They have to do the same thing. There's been a little bit different roster that we're looking at now. I mean, the Golden Knights are a great team, no doubt about it. Would I expect them to be on the winning side of 500 against those clubs? You have to be if you want to be a playoff team. If you want to carry that momentum into playoffs where teams fear you. They need to make a statement against those clubs. They need to win 3 out of 4 games against St. Louis and Colorado to let the league, put the league on notice that, hey, we are for real, we still are, and we're a cup contender.
Will you be watching as this season develops those individual series and points for, against, and do you look at it, you want 9 of 16 to be over 500? Is that enough of a victory, or do you want to take it a step further? Because the Canadian division, the North Division, does have that 7-game series where you can kind of look at it like a playoff series. This one you have to get creative.
It's going to be interesting. A lot of it, Daren, to me, is looking at these 2, 3, 4-game sets. You approach those more so like a playoff series where you're looking that you need to get the win in the series as opposed to a certain number of points. I think anytime you go into a situation where you're playing a team 3 or 4 times in a row, you want to take the majority of those points and the majority of those wins. And again, the mental aspect of it of, in a long haul, we're beating this team. We're putting them on guard that we are a tough team to play against in consecutive games, that we know how to make adjustments to our game to beat you. And that's what you have to do in those type of series. So to me, it's not as much on points, but it's how you play. And you really need to, in those series type of segments in the season, come out on top in the wins column.
Yeah, any type of slide is going to lead to losing series.
Well, yeah.
So that's directly related to how you fare head-to-head against a team because of the back-to-backs that are involved in all of these scenarios and situations with the schedule this year.
I can talk about this from my standpoint. I mean, if you go in and play 3 teams in a row, I've been in those scenarios before where You wax a team 3 games in a row, that's the best feeling in the world, and you know that you've got that team. Mental aspect of it is critical. You have complete control over them, and it puts a burden on the opposing team's shoulders that when they come into your building, they have that fear of getting run out the door again. Even if they're close games, it doesn't matter. It's what matters at the end of the game in the win column. And it's very real. Teams can get to a point where they become afraid of an opponent or they become nervous going into a building. And we're not in a bubble scenario any longer, despite the fact that there aren't fans in the building, there's not fans in T-Mobile at the start. You're still going into the opposing team's building. It's their home. And that's very real. And, you know, the flip side of that is if you lose 3 straight against somebody, you're looking around the room for answers. When reality was maybe they're close games. So it's really, to me, not as much the long haul of it. It's just in the moment, that mental feeling that comes along with it.
Love to hear more from everybody watching and checking in from VGK Worldwide on Facebook. Cassandra on Facebook in Oahu, Hawaii. Thank you for joining us. Good morning to you. Mike on Facebook says, VGK and San Jose have established a rivalry with 8 matchups against the other teams inside this West Division. Do you see any other rivalries developing in the West?
Anybody that you're going to play heavy, which St. Louis, very heavy team. I could see that series getting bitter very quickly. San Jose is proven. We know what that's like between the Golden Knights and the Sharks. You never know what's going to be the catalyst for something to happen to create the animosity on the ice. Sometimes all it takes is one bad hit or one game where you feel like you've been run over by another club. Even the softest of clubs in the league can push back. You know, players have pride. So, I mean, from the outside looking in, you'd think the Sharks for sure. You'd think St. Louis because they're a heavy team. But who knows? You've got hungry teams in LA and Anaheim that want more, that are trying to prove more. And desperation sometimes breeds animosity very quickly. So we'll see what
LA is
happens.
one team that just seems to be flying under the radar right now because everybody's focused on the Sharks because of the history, and then St. Louis and Colorado because of rivalry, competing for first place. But LA still has a place within this organization and going back to the first year.
LA has some outstanding prospects on the way too that are filtering in their lineup that are hungry. And, you know, LA did really good against the Golden Knights last year. You know, so that's not lost on the Golden Knights nor on the LA Kings. I agree with you, Daren. I think that's a team that, especially if they get some goaltending right off the bat that they can run on, there's some nice pieces in LA. The coaching has now had a full year to go into the changes that they want to. You really just never know. But looking at that LA club, I do on paper think that they're poised to be much more competitive this year than last season.
Well, and they still have Drew Doughty, who is the
an angry Drew Doughty at that point too. He's a spiteful Drew Doughty
of all things when it comes to just stirring things up. So we'll watch with great interest. It's going to be Anaheim and Arizona and St. Louis out of the gate for the month of January, and late this month we'll get our first interaction between Alex Pietrangelo and the St. Louis Blues, who replaced Pietrangelo's spot with Torrey Krug, and they've done some modifying to their roster, and that'll be an interesting matchup. The first meeting between the two favorites inside that trifecta of teams, top teams in the West Division with the Colorado Avalanche. Daren Millard along with Mike McKenna. Hope you're enjoying this live stream of this Sunday morning workout from City National Arena. The Training Camp Bulletin brought to you by NextGen. Matthew on Twitch has his eyes on Thomas Jurco. What are his chances of making the roster or chipping in at some point this season? This is a player that, while we've focused on some draft picks that have reported at training camp and look good at times for the Vegas Golden Knights, Jurco is an athlete who has over 200 games experience in the National Hockey League and has a skill set that can put him in very different roles. Excellent skill level. I remember playing against him and thinking that I had to be on my game, not just for his shot, but knowing where he can distribute pucks to. Excellent hands in tight, great feel, great creativity. And knowing, too, that he was a point producer at the American Hockey League level. At the NHL level, he hasn't been able to really grab onto that role. But what that's also done is given him third and fourth line minutes in the NHL. So he's learned how to grind, how to be part of a line that's not necessarily depended on for that ancillary scoring.
So as you alluded to, Daren, he is a pretty well-rounded player in what he could possibly do at the NHL level. Do I expect him to contribute this year? I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's a part of the Golden Knights at some point and maybe plays a larger role, because you can never have enough experience up and down your lineup.
Yeah, those 200 games in the National Hockey League surprised me when I looked at as his career list the other day. So there is that body of work and experience that he can lean on. Suzanne Tuck on YouTube asks, is it Thursday yet? Can you confirm?
It is in fact Sunday. We walk into the office today, and it's a weekend, except for us, and we're happy to be alongside you today. But
are you calling out everybody else in the office?
Well, I mean, do they work on Sundays, Daren? How many times have we walked in and seen them milling about? I wish it was Thursday. Don't you? I mean, we can't wait to get back to it as well. But yeah, we got to go through the processes. We got to make sure everybody's ready to go. It is in fact Sunday, though.
Team gathering around the bench. Looks like we'll get our first break of today's session, a resurfacing or a cut on the ice, and then come back for the back half of practice. Marc-Andre Fleury against Oscar Dansk, the goaltenders on this main sheet. Also going to give us an opportunity to discuss a couple of different history moments on this day. One, did you know it was back on 1918 on this day where hockey changed the rule to allow goaltenders to fall to the ice to make a save? So an anniversary of sorts, 103 years ago. Do the math. Stuck in 2020. Got to turn that page and move on. Be more positive. So a real anniversary of sorts there, and they were fined $2 every time they fell to the ice beforehand. Now imagine how much Oscar Dansk or Marc-Andre Fleury would be fined today. They'd have to carry around a bag full of toonies.
That's big money back then. $2 in 1918? I mean, think of the rate of inflation. The S&P goes at 10% every year. Can you imagine where we would be?
So do you have a reference point to what that $2 would be worth in 2021 money?
No, but we're going to call it $75 just for the fun of it. A nice round number. The exchange rate could make it interesting. I'd have to ask for your help and expertise. You referred to loonies and toonies. Sorry, I apologize, toonies. And for anybody who's never been to Canada, a $2 coin is a toonie, which... What a revelation to an American going to Canada for the first time when I was a kid. First my experience at Canada was Pee-wee, Quebec when I was 13. We go up there. My grandpa had already scared me into thinking that I wouldn't be fed if I didn't learn how to speak French, Daren. So he taught me how to say, je voudrais un gâteau. I'd like a cake. So I ate a lot of cake when I was there. Merci. But, it's carrying around all that change in your pocket. It's just a different feeling. We were used to bills. I mean, was it when you came to America, Daren? Was it very different to have to deal with singles?
So how much money do you have as a 12-year-old?
Oh, buckets.
Really?
No. I mean, but still, just having $1 or $2 or a loonie or toonie in your pocket felt so strange. Like, did dollar bills feel different to you when you came here?
I'm a credit guy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a card. I put it on the card. I don't use any cash. And if anybody asks you for cash, that's one thing I have to head over to the machine.
How are you going to pay that fine? Straight cash,
straight
homie.
Cash, credit.
Straight cash, homie.
Vimo. That's how I'm going to do it. And if you have football scores, as you're watching this stream and the football games taking place today, please let us know, because we're keeping our eye on that. At least one of us in the studio is regarding a couple of wagers on what's going on in the National Hockey League. So that's the story on the goalie change 103 years ago, a drop into the ice, and that change. They didn't really have an immediate impact. There were those that used it to their advantage, but the idea of being able to use the modern style came in and around Glenn Hall and Tony Esposito in the late 50s, early 60s, and really carried over. And then the modern butterfly with Patrick Waugh on the back of Vladislav Tretiak a little bit in the 70s and 80s.
Very interesting, that procedure, how long it took for it to take over. You shoot the puck on the ice, most goals go in on the ice, yet goaltenders were still making skate saves clear until the late 80s, early 90s. I was taught skate saves. I don't think I've used one in a game in probably 25 years. But boy, I can still do them. If you put the pucks at the blue line, I can turn my skate and kick them out. But it really was, Tretiak was one of the first to question, why do you make skate saves? And he said it to Ron Hextall. And it took Hextall completely by surprise that it's what we've always done. We've always just done this. And it was very interesting to me that different school of thought that Tretiak brought in by the 1980s is something that did lead towards using your pads to make those saves on the ice. Like you said, Patrick Waugh comes in with the Canadians, working with Francois Allaire, one of the preeminent goaltending coaches, one of the first goalie coaches really to work in sync with that, and the equipment's changed everything. It gives you the confidence when your equipment is good enough to go down, to put your chest and your shoulders and your face in front of the puck, as opposed to the old days when you used to make saves with your extremities, your pads, your gloves, your hands, because you didn't want to take a puck to the face or the chest. That hurt. That was not ideal.
The change in style really served to irrigate the equipment change and foster that and bring that around to form. It was really the style that changed, and then the equipment followed, not the other way around. But Denise on Facebook checking in as a member of the Oscar Dansk fan club. So it's nice to see Oscar Dansk out there with this group. And he has the challenge this year of being in that tweener role. We expect to see Oscar Dansk a lot on the taxi squad going in as we navigate this new approach in the National Hockey League.
As much as Oscar Dansk probably wants to go out and play 50 games, 60 games, either whether it's the American League or the NHL level, I think he's perfectly suited for this role as a taxi club goaltender. And Kelly McCrimmon has alluded to the fact that he will be able to potentially switch his goaltenders out if necessary to get them games should the American Hockey League get going. But Oscar Dansk is somebody who is very comfortable in himself as a goaltender. He might be the most technically sound goaltender of the Golden Knights stable. He's in position quite often. It's very indicative of Swedish goaltenders. They arrive on time, their feet are set. It's not as much flying by the seat of your pants as it is methodical. He's had these years now in North America to understand this game, to carry the load at the American Hockey League level. And let's not forget, he had the first shutout in Golden Knights history. Oscar Dansk has played quality NHL minutes. He's capable. He's looking for more. And in this type of season, you never know if you're going to end up playing a decent amount of games. Oscar Dansk could be a big piece of this season for the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, it's so unknown. We've seen that over the last couple of days, just on the different clubs that have gone through coronavirus exposures and positive tests. Dallas Stars with a positive test. Their training facility shut down right now. Good news on the Pittsburgh Penguins and Columbus Blue Jackets front, but Vancouver not practicing today. Again, on this day, Wayne Gretzky became the NHL's leading point producer on January 10th, 1989, breaking Gordie Howe's record. So what is your favorite Wayne Gretzky moment? Either you saw him in person or you watched him on television, and we want to hear from you as we go through this training camp bulletin presented by NextGen. You have a favorite?
Sure. I've got two of them, Daren. And the first one to me is that iconic moment. I believe it was his 2000th point in the NHL, and he's with the LA Kings. Correct me if I'm wrong. Gordon, our friend over here, will probably be able to fact check me on this, but there's an iconic picture of Gretzky with his hands in the air running on the ice. And I believe it was his 2000th point. And I apologize, now we have it. Thank you very much, Gordon. It was his 802nd goal in the NHL, significant moment. He's running on the ice. His teammates congratulate him, and it was immortalized in a player card, which I got out of a pack as a child. And I remember getting that and thinking, I'd gotten the golden ticket to Willy Wonka's factory. I'm running around the house. It's Gretzky's card where he's running. So that sticks out in my mind. And especially, I didn't get to see his early years. I'm an 83 birth year, so it was more later, the later years in Edmonton, the LA time, the New York time. But the secondary one I have, Daren, is when he was traded to the St. Louis Blues. And for me, that's my hometown. It was this momentous moment where there'd been a lot of buildup to it. There'd been rumor. And, in the late 90s, we didn't have the internet to tip us all off on what was going to happen. So everybody's wondering, can this really, come on, really? Gretzky's going to come to town. Come on. We all knew that Brett Hull wanted to have Wayne Gretzky passing him the puck. And then when it finally happened, just the number of jerseys and those clown jerseys that the Blues wore back, the red, yellow, blue jerseys that they wore back then that they've since brought back with a reverse retro, they were all around town. So those two Gretzky moments really stick out. How about you? You must have some great ones.
I've watched him and covered him long enough. There was a time when the Winnipeg Jets we thought they were going to leave. They actually came back for one more year before they moved to the Arizona Coyotes. But Wayne Gretzky owned the Winnipeg Jets. Everybody knew it. But it was the last game. LA Kings are playing against the Winnipeg Jets, and they finish the game. Everybody leaves the ice. Wayne Gretzky actually took the puck, got the puck, and went off the ice. He was a forward thinker at that stage of memorabilia and grabbing things like that. So we actually
how cool is
got
that?
the video of it. So he gave the puck back. But the idea that Wayne Gretzky would have the last puck ever played at the Winnipeg Arena against the Winnipeg Jets was just one of those side ones. And and just the last Stanley Cup where he won in Edmonton and organized that team picture as one of those memorable ones too.
Pretty cool.
And started that tradition of
right.
the on-ice team picture after you win the Stanley Cup. Seems so normal now, but back then in the late 80s, it didn't happen. You got the cup, you carried it around, and then you went off and you partied your face off. But now you get the team picture first.
So many things that Gretzky did were ahead of his time. I mean, he goes on Saturday Night Live, and he's an unbelievable host. If you ever get a chance to look back at that, how much fun he had, how much joy he had, not just on the ice but outside of it, and really being such a good ambassador for the game. You know, he did things people hadn't seen before for hockey. He put us on the map, especially in the U.S. and L.A. and in other areas where hockey was a niche sport, and it's grown into what it is nowadays. What I loved as a kid, and it became really kind of notorious for him, is that he would always give a stick away after warm-ups. And Gretzky had these Easton aluminum chrome sticks. And if you were a kid, all you wanted under the Christmas tree was one of those. And they were iconic looking. There was nothing like them. They were also stiff as a board, Daren. They were about a 110 flex, and everybody uses like an 85 now. But regardless of that, if you got one of those sticks, I couldn't imagine the joy. I never had a chance to. But that's something, thinking ahead, though, to spreading the game and passing along the joy of it to kids, to fans, and not just being selfish with it. He was very, very selfless in his career.
Not many players have the ability to cause you to recall all the different sticks that they used. Ray Bork had Sherwood. Paul Coffey, the Sherwood. PFE.
You can do it with Gretzky sticks, I bet,
Gretzky,
Daren.
Yeah, like with the Titan.
The red and white Titan TPM.
And the Hespeler, because he bought a portion of that
he
company
did.
and owned that, and then the Easton. Yeah, it's
when he went to New York, his Easton went from the chrome of LA to a red, white, and blue with a silver tip on it. I mean, I'm such a gear nerd, and you're fully aware of this, but it shows that it does extend beyond goalie equipment. We noticed those things, and he had absolutely iconic, those long cuffs on his gloves. I mean, we haven't seen long cuffs in the NHL since Chris Pronger retired, but Wayne Gretzky had them until the very end. The turtleneck, the Jofa helmet. Those Jofa helmets, Daren, those things are going for high dollar on eBay.
I wouldn't wear one of those things to vacuum.
That's what I coach in.
Because it offers such little protection, and he wore it on the ice. Gordon's Facebook memory moment, similar to Mike's, has a hockey card from the 1999 NHL All-Star game, Gretzky's last, and it has a piece of his game-worn jersey in that
cool.
card.
Wow. And it made me remember, if I can get this word out right now, Gretzky and Lemieux, opposing centermen in the All-Star game. Again, it's a St. Louis moment. It's drawing on my youth. But I have a poster of that at home, of those two facing off that was stylized like they were on a frozen Mississippi River with an arch in the background, and just all these iconic moments. You know, you think of him with the tucked jersey on the side on one side. How many?
Which you're not allowed to do anymore.
You can't. No, but how many young players did we see with a jersey tucked on one side, and off screen our friend Gordon is saying that was me, in fact. You know, he resonated so deeply into the game. And like I say, just such an amazing ambassador for hockey.
On this day, in 1989, became the all-time leading scorer in the National Hockey League, Wayne Gretzky. And was 1999 the San Jose game? I'm trying to think. Tampa Bay. Okay. Nicolette
clubs.
on YouTube reports that Ravens lead the Titans 17-10. So there's your update, and thank you to Nicolette for keeping us up to date, and please continue to do so. Bill on Facebook here in Las Vegas wishing everyone good health, good times as we navigate the start of the season, and can't wait to get back to watching hockey. And as far as rivalries go, Brian on Facebook says it seems like every team that faces the Golden Knights treats it like a rivalry game. Our team's still gunning to be the one that slows down the Golden Knights.
There's not a lot of love lost around the league for the Golden Knights. I think there's a lot of jealousy involved in that. It's an expansion team. How could they be this good? How are they contending for cups right away? Why are they so aggressive? It's a good hockey team. That's why. So you look at an organization that's been in the league for 30 years and hardly had a sniff at playoffs, and Pete DeBoer mentioned this the other day, how the expectations are high in Vegas because they've set the bar so high for themselves. make playoffs every year, go deep playoff runs. It's jealousy, Daren. Simple as that. There's players around the league that would love to play in Vegas, and because of that, who you can't beat, you don't like, and it happens an awful lot in the National League.
Ryan Craig out in the ice starting this drill, a 2-on-0 drill, going into the far end, just right behind Mike McKenna, actually, and Logan Thompson in goal for this workout, as a lot of the main group over on the Star Nursery Arena, where we are seeing some special teams work take place with the Vegas Golden Knights during this course of training camp. This is a training camp that is unique around the National Hockey League because of so many spots are already spoken for and determined. Have you been on teams like that, and what are the different challenges that go with something like that?
I've been on all sides of this coin. Well, there's only two sides to a coin, but I've been on both sides of it. Some teams you come into camp and everybody knows the team's pretty much set. Maybe there's one space available. I've been on teams that there's 3 or 4, and the level of competition in those camps is through the roof. The intensity for those positions. Old days, you'd see fights in camp all the time. It's pretty rare nowadays. Usually you're fighting more so with the puck than you are opponents.
There was one the other night in Vancouver.
So I know there was a pretty questionable hit by one of the players, and they dropped the gloves. But when you have spots available, when there's constant internal competition and turnover, in today's game, you're always one step away from it. And in this setting, where COVID is very much a reality, you can wake up tomorrow and have 3 players out of your lineup. It's just reality. It can hit anybody. I think everybody on the ice realizes that even if they're not on that opening roster, if you're in this camp, there's a very, very good chance that you're going to play NHL minutes this year, and that could be your golden ticket for the rest of your career.
The biggest battle at this camp might be to make the taxi squad, to qualify for that taxi group.
Totally agree. Because especially if you're on that taxi squad, you're that one step away. The barrier to entry of potentially going to the American Hockey League or back to junior is huge to come to the NHL. You certainly want to be on that taxi squad. Even if you're not playing those games as often or as regularly, you need to be there because you know that opportunity is knocking.
Suzanne on YouTube checking in with this. What is the rule on tucking in your jersey? Is there a fashion police?
You actually have to have your fight strap attached. And so for folks out there who may not be familiar with or never had an authentic NHL jersey, there is actually a strap just below the numbers on the back of the jersey that has a snap on it, and that must be attached to the back of your hockey pants. Reason being is that years ago in fights, they'd pull it over the opponent's head. You'd beat a guy to a pulp because he got a jersey and you can't see in his face. So these fight straps came to be to hold the jersey down. Well, that has to be attached now. If it's not, that's a penalty. That
only
effectively,
if you fight.
If you fight, that is correct. Thank you, Daren. But linesmen, referees, if they see that though, see it on a face-off, they will let a player know right away, hey, you need to put that down. So a fight strap effectively keeps you from tucking one side of your jersey, but there are guidelines to your equipment. Your arms on your the sleeves of your jersey are supposed to extend down into your gloves. For years, you'd see players tuck them up to their elbow pads. That's not supposed to be allowed anymore. So there is something of a fashion police. There's a mannequin with gear on posted in locker rooms on a little 8x10 card showing you what your equipment should look like. It's a little different than what it used to be.
But Ovechkin likes to tuck in his jersey, and they don't allow that anymore.
It happens by happenstance. If you're playing and your jersey tucks as you are flying down the wing or in front, or if you're on the power play and you decide to tuck it yourself in the middle of the play, there's usually gray area and ways to get around things. But when you step on the ice for a face-off, when the play starts, you're supposed to all be uniform and look the same across the board.
And so is there a reason why? Can you tell me?
I think, to be honest, Daren, I think it's more of a branding and a consistency thing across the board.
Fair.
There's players who'd been in trouble for having laces dangling from their pants. Ovechkin was that for a while. He had a mirrored visor for a while. There seems to be a desire for players to all kind of look similar in some ways. And, maybe as goaltenders, we've been lucky all these years to be able to paint our helmets and get different colored equipment to really show off personality, because the players don't have much of an option with that.
Banana_Freckles, the best name that
It is
I've
fantastic name
on one of these streams going back to the summer. Banana_Freckles on Twitch says, thank you for the football score update, because they're keeping an eye on the stream. VGK Hockey comes first. VGK Hockey ahead of the National Football League today. That's great news. Really looking forward to opening night on Wednesday and the electricity that's going to come from that, as there's games across the board in the National Hockey League, and then the Golden Knights launch their 2020-2021 National Hockey League season, launching a two-game series against the Anaheim Ducks that will begin Thursday and continue on Saturday. And just a programming note, on the radio side on Fox Sports Las Vegas and on AT&T Sportsnet, Mike and I will have a 60-minute pregame show. On the television front, Ryan Wallace, along with Gary Lawless, Dan Duva, and company, will have a 60-minute lead up from 6 until 7 on Fox Sports Las Vegas. So we go into the season with a full pregame show. We'll chat with Pete DeBoer on AT&T Sportsnet, as well as Kelly McCrimmon, and get you dialed in to what to expect from Alex Pietrangelo. That new look as the Golden Knights resume their quest for the Stanley Cup. It's a fourth year of existence, and it's unlike anything we've ever seen before, but they've been challenging for this since year number one. 2 trips to the Final Four in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and then in year number 4, the goal is quite simple in this 56-game schedule, is to qualify for the playoffs and then win the Stanley Cup.
It's been fun to watch the progression, and now watching practice right now, you talk about trying to generate some rebound chances and some goals off the rush. We're seeing that with 2-on-0s going towards the net. Daren, I'm really looking forward to those opening shows, especially our show on AT&T, thinking about how many voices we can bring in and the different perspectives. You know, those are the fun ones to prepare for. You've done so many more of them than I have, but it just is that opportunity to bring everybody together and get different voices, and a full hour's worth of content is really exciting to be able to bring to everybody.
And we'll be in T-Mobile Arena in the Fortress on Thursday night, and give you a real look at what the players are going to experience, and a tour, to a lack of a better term, of the rink and the different nuances that are going to be visible to the players and the television audience, and audio-wise on the radio side of things, because it's going to be without spectators to start this season at T-Mobile Arena. So different things that the National Hockey League and the Golden Knights in particular have taken different measures to make it feel more like the Fortress. It was interesting to hear Ryan Reeves talk about what happened on Thursday in that initial inter-squad game, and how even though there is no fans in the building, very similar to the bubble in Edmonton, it did have a much different feel because of the atmosphere, the music, and the in-game entertainment part of it.
He said right away that he wished it had been like that in Edmonton, the way it was in T-Mobile the other evening when they were scrimmaging. It's really nice that the league is allowing the teams to have the opportunity to try to make their arena as close as possible to what a normal game may be. And whether it's pumping in the crowd noise or having your typical songs and noise and just everything that goes into a game at the Fortress that we're used to, that's getting the players close to what their home is. And like I alluded to before, of even without the fans and how integral they are, especially for the Golden Knights, they're still going to be feeling them. The players are going to have the fans behind their backs, knowing for sure that the team's going to do everything they can to try to include the fans in whatever way possible. And it's that feeling of home. You know, this is their place. And it's also going to build excitement to that moment when the fans may have that opportunity to eventually come back in. You know, that's an exciting thing to keep track of throughout this season.
The summer bubbles in Edmonton and Toronto were designed to be generic in the sense of not to give anybody an advantage, but to give you as much of a feel as possible without fans in the building. That's not the case at the Fortress at T-Mobile Arena and with the VGK in-game staff. You are going to see and hear the music and a more up-tempo presentation. And certainly, while there's no fans in the building, there will be some aspects of the in-game presentation that are going to be familiar and unique just to Las Vegas.
Right. The Edmonton presentation was somewhat androgynous. It was down the middle. It was milquetoast. It was plain Jane. That's not going to be the case. This is still Vegas, I know that the production staff here is looking forward to flexing their muscles and being able to show the team what they can do to make the home ice advantage what it should be in the Fortress. And, the players are looking forward to that opportunity for sure. It's anytime you talk to a player on the Golden Knights, the fans are first and foremost in what's mentioned on why playing in Vegas is so cool, so different, so important. It's a different scenario than walking into Edmonton and playing against a different team, same building, same everything. Even having the availability of a rinkside reporter to ask questions. Our own Stormy Bonantoni is going to be able to have availability and access to the players in a capacity this year. That's really, really exciting, and it brings back that normalcy.
Got to get the sticks and the pucks that are in the way designed for the players to work around to up its game, because right now the players going through this drill are absolutely schooling it. There has been times where you watch a stretch where that thing dominates the drill, where it gets to people's heads and it's flying all over the place.
It's ping-ponging all over the building.
Over it. But right now during this stretch, it's one of the best drills that
I tell you what, though, we might have to get Ryan McGill a new stick. He needs to recalibrate that. Couple passes, Aaron. Here's a good one, right? We got a little touch on the stick. These devices are really simple. They're just broken sticks with some pucks screwed onto the bottom of them. But finding accuracy, finding lanes, these type of training devices have really become popular in the last decade or so. You don't see them just in practice per se during regular drills, but you'll see them towards the end when you have the opportunity to really clamp down on skills coaching. This is just one of the items you may see. There's so many of them now. For goaltenders, they've got essentially big mannequins that they can bring out on the ice. There's deflection tools and boards. You'll see something similar to what they're using now, these sticks with pucks on them. There's a device that even has a little bit of a rubber band between the pucks that is a passing tool that they can utilize. So all these little creative ideas to make players better. We used to just chuck a bunch of tires and cones on the ice. And
still
now
see some of that too.
You still on occasion, but stuff like this really helps the players. It gives them an availability to sauce it over, under, make things accurate. And they enjoy it.
You take it easy on Ryan McGill, because you know what he's going to say coming back.
Oh, that's fine.
You can't give a good player a bad pass. And just sometimes you're going to get one in your feet during the course of the game, and that's what he's working on right there.
It's all on purpose.
It's very much strategy from the VGK assistant coach standpoint.
I had Ryan McGill as a head coach briefly in my career, and I remember he pulled me to get the extra attacker on the ice, and I was halfway to the boards, and they scored, and it was my fault. So
I don't know what you were thinking there.
Why would you ever come
on
off?
YouTube in Binghamton, Emil's in Latvia, where it's just after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in to this Training Camp Bulletin presented by NextGen. Nicholas in Alberta, Francis in British Columbia, and David in Henderson. And we've loved our visits to Henderson, getting to know everybody on that side of town, certainly exposing ourselves to the city a little bit more with Lifeguard Arena, which is really going to ramp up its presence with the Henderson Silver Knights starting their training camp after the completion of the VGK version here.
Very exciting, the expanded footprint within Vegas. Isn't this VGK Worldwide so much fun, these check-ins, Daren? I mean, do you have a favorite city that we've had or favorite country that we've had so far?
Latvia. How do you go wrong with that? Riga is beautiful.
I've heard that. I've had several friends that have.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That part of it. And every time we hear from somebody in Prague, my heart just goes out to wanting to be back in that wonderful city and that wonderful part of the world. And Spanish Fort, Alberta is where Mike is watching from on Facebook right now. So VGK fans all over North America and around the world. Matt on Facebook says he's enjoyed watching McKenna play in Springfield. Do you have a favorite memory from Springfield?
Oh, Thunderburger competition off the ice. No, on the ice, Springfield was. I had 2 tours in Springfield, once as a Falcon, once as a Thunderbird. Falcons were fun. We won our division that year. We had.
Who's your coach and who are some of your teammates?
That's a great question, Daren, where I was about to head to. Jared Bednar, the head coach of the Colorado Avalanche, was actually our assistant coach to Brad Larson, who is an assistant coach with the Columbus Blue Jackets currently under John Tortorella. But we had Jared Bednar as an assistant and Nolan Pratt as an assistant. And Pratt is now Bednar's assistant with the Colorado Avalanche. The captain of that team, Daren, Ryan Craig.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you played with Ryan Craig?
Jonathan Marchessault was there as well. Another teammate throughout that season. That was a fun year. We had a good team, accomplished a lot. We ended up beaten by Malcolm Subban and the Providence Bruins in playoffs that year. But yeah, Springfield was fun that way, and Ryan Craig was, integral part of it, keeping that team structured, afloat, having fun. I think we all knew that he was probably on this trajectory towards coaching because he was really, really good at being able to bridge the gap between us as players to the coaching staff in the office.
Like tell you what to do?
Basically.
Like behave?
Like, you need to do this, son.
Like you need to be in
You need
at
to
night?
show up,
Yeah.
And no, he didn't do any curfew calls, thankfully. But no, having somebody like Craig at that level is invaluable.
Was he always this serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he'd let loose on occasion. We'd see it often on occasion. But, man, like, you think about players in front of the net and how they played and how hard he was to move.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I would hit the back of his legs with my stick so hard to try to move, and it never phased him. I might as well have been hitting my stick off an oak tree. He didn't move.
Yeah, he's solid and had game and was a hard player to play against with some skill as well. Mike is actually in Spanish Fort, Alabama, not Alberta. I was wondering because I'd never heard of
I
Spanish
keep waiting
Fort,
for Porcupine
Alberta.
Plain,
But
Saskatchewan, Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan.
Into those places. Josh on Facebook in Olympia, Washington. Hello, and hope you're enjoying this one. Lorenzo on Facebook is excited to see the team wear the gold jersey for the first time. And a reminder, everybody can get their gold jersey at the Arsenal at City National Arena, the Armory at T-Mobile Arena, and VegasTeamStore.com, VegasTeamStore.com for your gold jersey. And that is going to be one of those great moments when they come out in those gold sweaters.
He's not the only one. The glitz and the glamour associated with them. I don't think the pictures do it justice, Daren. We've seen them in person. Fans have seen them. The level of what's the right word? Glitz to them. The reflective nature. Like they just scream Vegas to me. At the moment
sparkle.
the team puts thank you very much. Sparkle is the word that was staying out of my mind. You can never be sparkly enough. But just think about how that's going to play with maybe Marc-Andre Fleury's gold on his mask or his pads. It's so exciting. And on top of that, the reverse retro that came in this year. There are new things for Vegas Golden Knights fans to look forward to, exciting things to see on the ice. But those gold jerseys fans have been waiting for them now for the better part of 3 seasons. What's it going to look like? How's it going to play out? Can't wait to see them on the ice. Sparkly.
So you have your home schedule with 3 different sweaters that you're going to be able to see. So there's going to be all kinds of different models that we'll be able to watch from T-Mobile Arena. And as this season starts, is not going to be how it finishes, at least from a fan perspective. We're really crossing our fingers that at some point we get the Medieval Maniacs into T-Mobile Arena and able to inch our way towards some sort of capacity. And we'll wait and see how we deal with the virus. But we're really crossing our fingers on that side of it to get that atmosphere and get those people in the building. There are some teams that are going to put fans in the building. Tampa was supposed to start with fans. They've put that back to early February. But Florida is going to start with some spectators. Dallas does have some plans for fans. Don't know whether that's changed because of what they've gone through in the last couple of days with the positive test. And Arizona, inside the West Division that the Golden Knights are going to play, that might be the first exposure that the Golden Knights have to playing in front of a crowd when they travel to Glendale to face the Arizona Coyotes in that first series of games against the Coyotes this month.
What'll be really interesting is how it feels to have 4,000 or 5,000 people in a building that holds 20,000 and socially distanced. It may look like there's no one in there, and you may not hear them as much. You play in these situations a lot of times as you're moving through your career, as you're moving up the ranks in the minors, where maybe you're playing in this big building that holds 20,000 people and there's 4,000 there, and it feels like nobody. So it's great that there'll be fans in those cities. It's great for Gate. It's good for the team to have them there. But you wonder if there's going to be much different feeling on the ice by having them in the building. I don't think it'll be quite as big. Your tipping point for a big building, you're looking at 10,000 before you really start to hear them. But from our perspective, especially even thinking about being up in Section 117, having everyone surround us with what we do on the air, it's just, it won't be the same without everybody, but we are looking so forward to hopefully having that opportunity again.
And 2001 City is very different than 2000 in City B or C.
Yes.
And we know where Vegas stands on that. Speaking of the gold jerseys, Orenzo has a White Cloud gold sweater. Cassandra has a gold Marchessault. Who else has a gold sweater? Let us know. And what name do you have on it? Do you have a name and number of preference? Or maybe you've got your own version out there. Those ones that you see the odd time that are just totally random. Then you almost want to go up and say, what's that mean?
What was your jersey number when you played? Did you have a set number?
No, whatever. I wasn't good enough to ask for a sweater.
Very
number.
much the Lamorello style
Yeah,
of whatever
well,
you get, you receive.
Lamorello assigned you a sweater. I was assigned the sweater of last one on the block.
So if you could choose a number today, maybe a hero in your past that would have led you to choose a number.
Yeah, the different numbers have gone through phases, right? 20 was never a number, but became a number with Tretiak and then Belfour, and becoming a lot more popular with somebody like that. 29 was so popular with Ken Dryden, and then became certainly in this area with Marc-Andre Fleury. 35 was a popular number with somebody like Tony Esposito, and then Andy Moog, and then on the list. So there's a lot. 47 always grabbed me as would be a cool number to wear.
Unique,
just because it's different, but it balances out.
It does.
I don't know why.
You know what's interesting to me is that Ron Hextall wore 27, and that never really caught on as a goalie number. He was very unique. I wore 29 most of my career as an honor to Greg Millen, who was my first goalie idol, as the first person I saw in net for my hometown team, but he also caught with his right hand, which I modeled myself after. And then as I progressed, I ended up wearing 56 because it was my dad's racing number on his cars, and my grandpa wore it later. It's fun to learn the background on players, why they choose numbers when given that opportunity. Sometimes it's family-oriented. Sometimes it's a hero. Sometimes it's just the number they got their first year at camp, and then they decided, hey, this is my number, and I'll stick with it.
Another Southpaw, Mike Palmatier, wore number 29. And Palmatier and Millen have something in common. One, they both caught with their right hand, but also in practice. They wanted nothing to do with the puck. And,
nope.
Palmatier at times would just stand in the corner. Millen would almost jump out of the way because he didn't want the puck, and teammates and coaches were forever on them, to the point that Mike Gartner would come down every now and then and just fire one at the goaltender on the side because they didn't want to be in there and stopping the puck. Equipment so much different.
It's changed everything.
Was a reason why, but those two in particular didn't like the practice part of it because of the bruises that was left on the body.
And you saw the mask that Millen wore back then. It was a Jofa helmet with these tiny wires. I wouldn't want to get in front of the puck either. He even said that Herb Raglan was his number one enemy in practice. Just pounded his collarbones.
There's always one, right?
There is always somebody that you're worried about in practice. And for today's goaltenders, they're so well protected. Marc-Andre Fleury's mask and Robin Lehner's masks they're outstanding. Their upper body gear is so much improved. You do still occasionally get stingers, but if you ask those guys, I would guarantee that there's somebody in the lineup that the closer they get to the net, you're starting to flinch a little bit, because it's not just that it's coming high, Daren. Mm-hmm. It's that the person shooting's unpredictable.
We were working on the end of warm-up drill.
Yeah.
Right there, the swarm.
The scrum.
Go
get them.
Net. First time we've seen something like that during the workout. So we are really getting ready.
Yes, we are.
As people have to go through. See, I wonder where Pietrangelo is going to fit into the whole one coming on the ice, where he slots in to that, what his preference is. Does it mesh with everybody else, and then around the ice when you come out for the national anthems, and there's all that has to. Fortunately, they just have to work in a couple of guys this year.
It's fun to see the different roles that players take on. Alec Martinez loves to be the last player off the ice. He loves to give the knuckles to everybody as they're going off. What we just talked about, the scrum at the end of warm-ups. There's typically one player who will always get the puck out by the blue line and sauce in at the net for the rebound play to start that scrum off. Who's it going to be? If I'm not mistaken, I think that's been Jonathan Marchessault's role in the team. I could be wrong with that. I believe Alex Pietrangelo actually did that in the past with St. Louis at times. So those little intra roles within the team are fascinating to watch how people fall in line to where their place is before, after, during games.
Kathy has a Carlson gold jersey. Jennifer, a Theodore sweater. And Reno Ray has a Reeves gold sweater. A lot of different versions.
Reno Ray. I love that. We need those type of names. Rick from Red Deer, Reno Ray.
Keenan on YouTube in Edmonton. Good morning, good afternoon. Edward on Facebook in Australia. 4:15 in the morning, Edward. That is a dedication to the VGK Monday morning for Edward on Facebook in Australia. And Anders on YouTube in Jönköping, Sweden.
Could have guessed that one.
Yeah, 9:15 p.m. So do you ever play in Europe?
I never had the opportunity to. I've been stuck on the mainland. I'm not as worldly as you. No,
I didn't play over there either.
But you've been there.
Some of those cities get familiar with during a couple of work stoppages. That's the only reason why. So what are they doing here as we wrap up practice?
We're going to find out shortly. There's no goalie in the net, so I'd imagine these are going to be high shots. Trying to keep everybody healthy. It looks like Ryan McGill's behind the net feeding pucks out to the front. I have never seen this setup before with the pucks in front of the net. So what we're trying to do is drive a player to the net, either sauce it over these pucks or through these pucks. The player going to the net has to potentially pick it up with a deflection off of those pucks or through it. You're trying to mimic picking up pucks through traffic, which is really a skill for players going towards the net. If it deflects off something, you may have to pick it up out of your feet rather than your stick blade. Get it onto your stick blade as quick as you can. Find space in front. This is a fun little drill. I wonder who came up with this.
And you just use what you have, right? There's no fancy equipment. There's not 4 or 5, 10 players. You can do this with 3 different players and a couple of pucks.
Yeah, and a big fake goalie in the net there. Oh, big save. Glove save by the metal-framed goaltender.
Wide butterfly.
Very wide butterfly. Bad stick placement. No stick placement, actually. Thankfully, his defenseman has not given him a stick. The defenseman needs it more than the goaltender. We've reached an interesting point of the training camp bulletin, haven't we?
We have, which means that we're ready to wrap up and part ways with you until tomorrow, when we will return with the training camp bulletin presented by NextGen, and we may or may not, depending on the progress and the decisions around training camp, have some roster news. We are at that stage where it could come on a day-to-day basis, but everybody has to be cap compliant by the start of action on Wednesday night. So thank you to Martin Harris Construction for sponsoring the Vegas Golden Knights 2020-2021 training camp, and for NextGen for bringing you the training camp bulletin. If you want more VGK news, check out the training camp diaries brought to you by Station Casinos, and Jack in the Box is also presenting sponsor of the VGK Daily Training Camp podcast, which comes to your inbox on a day-to-day basis. Thanks to Mike McKenna. Mike McKinnon is a player that I knew way back when. Mike McKenna for joining us
Probably
today.
Would have been a better goaltender if I was named McKinnon.
Yeah, maybe. But you were pretty solid. As we gear our way towards Wednesday and the opening of the National Hockey League season, and then Thursday night at T-Mobile Arena, we are closing in. Thanks for being with us on this Sunday. Have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll chat with you again tomorrow with the Training Camp Bulletin brought to you by NextGen.